Like always, today's episode is brought to you by our amazing sponsors: gluten-free diet water, premium junk clothing, Williamson wines, Good Dudes coffee. Gluten-free diet water. Stay hydrated with a refreshing twist. Perfect for those health-conscious listeners. Premium junk clothing for those who love to express their unique style with high-quality fashion pieces. Visit premiumjunkclothing.com and use code EverydayGSD15 at checkout. Williamson Wine, natural artisan wine from Napa and Sonoma. Good Dudes Coffee, veteran owned by former Navy SEAL Josh Bridges. Every cup is brewed with passion and dedication to quality. Visit their website at gooddudescoffee.com and use discount code EverydayGSD10 for an exclusive offer. And also, don't forget to visit the Everyday GSD store at Bibeau.com for all your official Everyday GSD merchandise. And now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Everyday GSD podcast. Today's special guest, Navin Goyal.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay. You spend most of your time running Loud Capital. I'm going to just go over a few things, and if you want to correct me, please do. It's a venture capitalist alternative investment firm that is purpose-driven and positively impacting people's lives. You educate new and existing investors. You build and invest in people-centric companies, and you offer them opportunities to grow their capital.
That's right.
So basically, what you're doing is people are investing to make more money.
People are investing in other people, and everyone makes money.
Awesome. I love it. Everyone wins.
Everyone wins.
But this is the part that I think is super cool, and I think the audience is going to love it. In your first career, and believe me, we're going to talk about this after we go through the rest of this amazing bio on you. But in your first career, you were an anesthesiologist, a doctor.
That's right. Still am.
Well, yes, you still are. Correct. Yeah, you didn't just. Yeah, good. That's it, right?
I earned that.
Yes, yeah, you sure did. But honestly, you learned how to take care of people and how to work with other leaders in the as a medical director. You realized you wanted to impact people more broadly. Mm-hmm. Okay, and like I said, I got a few things on here. You're married to these passions for venture capital and your skills as a you married them together. You merged them together.
Yeah.
Your venture capital with your medical professional skills.
That's right.
Which I feel like this isn't normal.
It's not.
Okay. Right.
It's crazy, abnormal, and
okay.
Yes.
You're also an author. You wrote the book Physician Underdog.
Correct.
You also founded a mobile healthcare company that has scaled to multiple states and raised multiple rounds of capital for various investors.
Correct.
You continue to write on LinkedIn. You get an amazing LinkedIn following. You do newsletters, various media podcasts, public speaking companies, organization events, and you like to bring teams of experts to help businesses thrive.
Yes.
Okay. And this is the best part. I love this because this is why I really wanted you on the show. You're committed to bringing value that includes positivity, experience, and motivation, which is very much the Everyday GSD lifestyle.
It's so good to be here.
Yes. Awesome. Okay. So let's jump into it. You're like a little kid and your parents want you to be a doctor, and you're like, okay, let's start working on just being real smart in school because everyone knows the effort that you have to do to become a doctor, regardless of what kind of doctor it is.
Yeah. So that's it right there, actually. I think it started out with a challenge. Hey, this is really hard to get into. I remember thinking that was, that's interesting. So something that's really challenging, let's try for that. And at the same time, I still think today in society, especially around the world, physicians are still known as healers and respectful professionals in society.
Correct. And I would agree with that. Around the world.
Around the world. And I didn't have any physicians in my family, but whenever we would meet one, it would be this, oh gosh, this is Dr. whoever, Navin, meet him or her.
Right.
And so there was this intrigue. And then, I think that combination was enough for me to say, I think I want to be a doctor. And then, I ended up liking sciences. I ended up digging.
So were you good in school too?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so and that's good. You're reading and remembering, or you're putting a lot of work into it too, or both.
Putting a lot of work, and that's what I was just about to say.
Okay.
I always, I have trouble complimenting myself, but I always want to make it real so people understand
right.
that I did really well in school, but I worked my butt off. And there's plenty of people that I would look to who would study a half hour. I would study 3 hours, and I would just get that great grade. But that continued on and still continues today. So I have an extremely strong discipline that if I put my mind to it, I will work my ass off to get to it.
Okay. Now, did that come from your family upbringing?
Possibly, it could be, first generation family. My parents were born in India, came here. They came here for the opportunity, and with that expression comes through the kids, right?
Right.
We came here for you, so you feel that pressure. We didn't grow up with a ton of money, probably just middle class, and which is I'm grateful for, but definitely that was on top of mind. Is education is huge. Take advantage of every opportunity to do your best and do better than us as parents.
Right.
So we took that very seriously.
And do you think that's a cultural thing in the Indian community?
Education is a very high priority in kind of the Indian culture. But then, the more I look at different cultures, I feel like education is pretty high for a lot of cultures. So
I agree.
I'm not sure if it's really just an Indian thing. I think it is definitely more of an immigrant thing.
Right.
Because people are or let's call it parents or guardians are sacrificing this move for opportunity. And as soon as they have offspring, it's like, we came here for this.
Right.
So I think
perform.
To perform.
Yeah.
Take advantage of what we did not have, and we are going to guide and parent you to make sure you understand that. And so obviously I only have one experience, but I feel like that's consistent.
But that's interesting that you say that because it's so true, right? So if you think about it, when your parents came here, roughly how old were they? Do you know?
They were their late 20s.
Okay. So they grew up as kids in India.
Yep.
So now they don't know what kids growing up in America are like.
Exactly.
Right. So now they have kids in America.
Yep.
And they're doing everything to be the best parents they can.
Yeah.
And you as the first generation son or daughter has to know that you can't let them down because they sacrificed everything basically for this.
Yep.
And when you really think about the spectrum of that and you start looking at like Thai families, Indonesian families, any immigrant family that comes to the United States, and you watch how much harder the whole family ends up working compared to someone who's, and I'm not taking any credit or discredit against anyone who's born here and they've fought 5 generations. Yep. But when you can see that where you even made a statement about, like, for example, you would maybe study for 3 hours when someone else could study for 30 minutes, but you needed that A.
I needed that A.
You needed that A.
There's no other option.
No other option.
And the other thing I want to say is, at least with my parents' time, it was the 60s. And so some of the adversity coming from India, discrimination, racism, whatever, I know that energy that I remember my dad when he was an engineer looking for a job, etc., that energy of I do not want my kids going through this.
Right.
And I can't control society, but I can control the education, was that kind of output. So I think that, along with the immigration mentality, was extremely strong. And I experienced a little bit with my dad, and I'd remember some of those things that he wouldn't talk too much about, but I know it was in his head. So I can imagine being a parent now of teenagers, that energy that you feel, that the closest things you love are usually your kids. Right. And you want to protect them in every way.
Most people.
Most people. Yeah, of course. Not everybody. Just kidding. Not everybody. Hey, it's real. It's real. So.
No, my parents loved me. They still do.
That's it.
Unless you curse on the show.
Yes. Yeah. So you can curse on the show, but I'm trying to be a better host in season 4. To not use certain curse words because my mom said it doesn't sound so good, and she really enjoys watching the show. But it is an open show, and it does have a little E on it, so you can say any words you want.
Yeah.
But I'm working on season 4, just being a little bit better.
I will say not even better. I would say, said another way, broader.
Broader.
Because the quality of conversation is so good that if there's teenagers who want to watch this and have strict parents, they say, "Oh, definitely watch it. It's relatively, PG or PG-13."
Right.
There you go.
I like that. Randy, who's a great friend of ours, and actually, whenever Randy talks, I listen to him because even though he doesn't know he's giving me advice every time he talks, but he's just one of those guys, right? And he was like, "I really like that you're cutting back on the uneducated words," I think is what he said. But anyway, shout out to you, Randy. I love you. I hope you continue watching the show and love season 4. All right, I digress. Where were we?
Growing up, wanted to be a doctor.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So what college did you end up going to?
Ohio State University in Columbus.
Nice.
Yeah, and I majored in molecular genetics, and I don't have a lot of regrets in life, but
That's one of them.
That's one of them because of the reason behind it, which is I did that major because a few people told me to do some exotic, crazy science major. And at that time,
But you did say you like science, though, right?
I love science.
Okay.
But molecular genetics is like
Yeah.
getting to a nerdy point that I don't nerd out anymore on. You
Right.
know, it's just like, and so, and people who work in a lab or various fields might really appreciate molecular genetics, but it was not for me. And I only did it because some people told me, if you do this, it's going to look so much better to get into medical school. All right.
Oh. So you're really planning ahead.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to be a doctor when I was probably 6th, 7th grade and laser focused.
Right.
Everything I did was to be a doctor. And so when I...
6th or 7th grade.
Yeah. So a regret of mine, which carries... I always tell people this. I like to talk to students and mentor and all these. I say, don't ever do something for something else. Don't... if you're going to spend time doing a major, picking something, do it for yourself, for your development, for your skills. Do not do it for an application, an employer, or anything like that.
That's great info.
That is one of my like truisms that I didn't follow at the time, but I absolutely...
Because you didn't know it at the time.
I didn't know it. Now I know, and I tell everyone that. And a college major is one example, but just in life, do skills that are going to benefit you because you are you and you will go wherever. Don't do something just to get in the door, right? And doesn't mean like don't be smart or strategic.
No, of course
Don't
not.
invest in something just for, an application.
So looking back at it, what would you have done? What would you have done differently?
I probably would have done something like, well, I love psychology now, so I would have done psychology, I think. But
you didn't know that then.
But I didn't know that
Yeah.
then.
So I guess that's a loaded question, right?
Yeah, it's tough to.
It's tough to.
But I would not have done molecular genetics.
Yeah, you know that. You do know that.
And for the record, not only did it seem, I still don't understand it. It probably lowered my GPA. I still got into medical school, but I'm just saying. So
Yeah.
kind of backfired.
So you graduate high school. Now you're going to medical school.
Yeah. Then I went to University of Cincinnati for medical school.
And 8 years, I'm assuming.
So medical school is 4 years.
Okay, and then
I liked anesthesiology when I did a rotation, and someone said, "Navin, I know you like physiology and pharmacology. Again, these are the two subjects I absolutely adhered to in medical school." And they said, "You should, check out anesthesiology." I'm like, "Dude, what is that? Like, no one really knows about anesthesiology. It's such a smaller subsect field." There's internal medicine, general surgery, pediatrics, OBGYN. Those are the kind of the major ones. And then from there, there's some subspecialties. And so I said, okay, let me check it out. I was fortunate enough to do anesthesia very, very early in my rotations. And I just loved it. Quick decision-making, procedures, in and out. I mean, quick thinking is actually what I really realize I'm good at. And it really was... keeps me interested.
Right.
Things can happen fast. And, with a good day in anesthesia, things are not happening fast and it's pretty boring. Right. And so you want to get to a boring state. But what I tell people is then you're bored.
Yeah. Right.
And that's why more things happened after the career. But after medical school, then I matched. Do you know what the matching process is?
No.
It's the most archaic process. Still happens today.
Okay, share it with us.
You ready?
Justin, are you familiar with it?
I have no idea.
Okay,
I'm
good.
excited to learn this.
Because I was going to say if he because he knows everything over there, and I'm just like, am I the only one in the room that doesn't know? But I'll be the first to say that.
All right, it's called the match.
Okay, the match.
Okay. Now, after let's say 3 years of medical school are done, now it's like, okay, you guys have to decide what you want to apply for, what residency spots. Residency is training.
Right. Correct.
Right? And I wanted anesthesiology, and at that time they said apply to at least X amount of like 10 programs. Hopefully you get about 6 or 7 interviews. If you get 6 or 7 interviews, there's a pretty good chance you will match somewhere because people can graduate from medical school, they have their MD and do not match. That still happens, and it happens in numbers.
Okay. Yeah, I'm tracking.
So now you went to, let's say, 4 years undergrad, 4 years of medical school, doesn't guarantee you a spot to train to be a doctor.
Because you don't have a match.
Because you don't have a match. But I'm going to tell you more. So I apply for multiple programs. I got, a good amount of interviews. And then you rank your programs. You say, I like this place And at that time, I wanted to go to New York City or Chicago. So
Two great cities.
two great cities, and I, being around Ohio all my life, I was like, I want to go to a big city and
Experience a big city life. Yeah, for sure.
So I had some big names up there at Cornell, Columbia, University of Chicago, Northwestern, and you rank it, and you basically say if they like me and I'm
Match,
right? But I'll tell you another thing: if some people did their rotations and they said, I liked internal medicine, but I also like pediatrics, or they're not sure. Some people ranked 5 medicine and 5 pediatrics. So you do not know where you're going to end up, what city, what training program, if you're matching, and in what field.
And how come, does everyone know this when they're going to be?
Yes, it's in the medical world. Everyone knows it. It's so archaic, and it still happens today. So people, I think the mainstream way to do it is when there's a Black Monday. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, is it a Black Monday? Yes. And what that means is it's in March. You basically get notification whether you matched or you didn't match.
And why is it called Black Monday? Because it sucks. It could really be terrible.
It's like do or die, man.
Right.
It's like this is going to be the worst or the best day of your life.
Right.
Okay. And so
at that time,
I think it was noon on Monday. And at the time we were just logging in some site and it was something, either said match or it said something. And I just remember being like, I'm going to be an anesthesiologist. Like it was amazing.
No, keep going. I'm at the edge of my seat. I got questions. Keep going.
All these emotions. And you're like, literally, I remember I was like, I'm going to be an anesthesiologist. So I got a spot, but I'm also going to be in the field. I only applied for anesthesiology.
Because you could have got somewhere and not been an anesthesiologist.
No, so I want to clarify that. Yeah. I only applied to anesthesia residencies.
Okay.
So if I'm matching, I'm going into anesthesiology. I was just telling you that some people don't know and they apply to various things.
So you could have applied to a couple and then got one that you didn't really want, but you were that was a safe.
Correct.
Safe haven.
Yes. So that person still on that Monday, you only know if you matched. You don't know where. And if people apply to multiple fields, they don't know what. But you know you're going to be training to be a doctor in some way, which is quite a feeling.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
But also scary if you're like, I might not be doing what I really want to do. It might be doing something that I still want to do, but not.
Probably, yeah. And it happens, but probably not as common, but still, I think that's still a crazy thing to think about. And then that Thursday, so 3 days later, you get a letter at your school, and I think the mainstream way to do it is people just meet in a conference room or like a big hall with their families. You open it up in front and you read where you are matched at. Okay?
Right.
Now, our school wanted to do it a little different.
Of course they did.
You're in an auditorium with all families. You get your name called. You open up the envelope there in front of everybody and announce it.
It's like the draft.
It's like the draft.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, but I didn't want to.
Except when you're getting called, you're not necessarily saying I'm winning.
Yeah.
I mean, like you matched, but you could be in your last choice, which is just a spot. It could be in Hoboken somewhere, and you just don't know. Like there's emotions.
Yeah, like you really, really want to go to Chicago or New York, and you match in Louisiana.
Exactly.
And you have zero interest in going there, and you actually wrote a different type of field of doctoring.
Yeah.
And you're like, I just put that in there, and then you're like, geez, that's what I'm really that's what I'm doing.
So
wow.
So that's what was happening. I was seeing my classmates, open it up and announce it. There were some tears. There was plenty of, it was really emotional.
Yeah, tears and joy.
So tears and joy. And so I went down. My family, my brother-in-law, my sisters were there.
What'd you open up?
I opened it up. I ended up at University of Chicago.
Boom.
Which is an incredible institution and training program. And then I was going to Chicago. And check. And I was like, it was numbing. I mean, I still have the pictures. They were one of the few programs that with that letter, they sent me like attire, University of Chicago. And it was just like such a special moment. It felt like a draft.
Yeah. I was going to say, it feels like a draft just talking about it.
And then you want to hear something really cool.
Yeah, that's why we're on the show.
Is my close friends who were some were anesthesiology, some was gastroenterology, internal medicine. they also matched to different programs in Chicago.
So you guys are going as
So
friends.
literally, well, not only that, a day or two later, I'm like, I'm finding us a place. And we all end up roommates in Chicago the next year. So we're all living together. I mean, it was literally
It couldn't work out any better.
but you got to hear the place I found. It was the dopest place. It was on top of a restaurant, 4-bedroom with an outdoor deck in Old Town, which was at that time a really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, Old Town.
Yeah, North and Wells.
Yeah.
It sounds like a TV show I'm about to see in a couple years.
Yeah, right?
I mean,
It's like Grey's Anatomy.
now you walk in, on the left is a bar. I mean,
Yeah.
in this place.
This is amazing.
And let's just say it was the best year of our lives in every single way.
Oh, I bet. And congratulations. But that's the hard work, right? You put in the work, and then obviously there's
There's a lot more work, but
but I mean, to get to that point.
Yeah.
But I just think about, like, imagine if you went to Chicago. I'm just going to say hypothetically, you go there and you're solo.
Yep.
You don't get to go with your friends. So now you're experiencing the city on your own, which is, people do it all the time. It's great. But now you have to find 2 roommates. You end up finding 2 roommates that aren't in the same field as you. So they're working different hours.
I know.
And they don't have the same motivation, I don't want to say skill set, but I'll say it's the same skill set, the same drive.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden you could be kind of going down some wrong roads because
100%.
you're it's just like, man.
No, it's a different experience, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really cool.
That's awesome.
I do want to tell you about my first call.
I can't wait.
So at that time we were doing Q4 call, which is every 4th night you're staying at the hospital.
Okay.
And so you're working a full day, then working all evening, and you might be working all night. And then the morning, everyone comes to work.
Do your rotation.
And you work, and they get you out by, at that time, noon, 1 or 2.
It's a lot of hours.
It's a lot of hours. And you get paid at that time minimum wage.
Yeah, it was like nothing.
Oh, it's, nothing. And
Yeah.
so,
Because you're learning.
yes. So my first call, it was extremely stressful. Intern year is the first year, extremely stressful. You're like,
And are they giving you a bunch of, for lack of a better word, crappy stuff to do too?
Yeah, 100%.
Just
yeah,
like, I don't want to say
scut work.
Yeah, I don't want to say like messing with you, but like just give it
Oh,
to
you're
give it to the
You're the peon. You're the lowest on the totem pole. Like there's a etiquette of some sort. You know, you have your MD, but you don't have any knowledge or experience.
Right.
You don't have experience in the hospital. So, you know, the first call I did, it was probably worked 30 some hours straight, 32 hours straight. Let's call it. Okay. And
it's a lot.
It's not only working straight, it's high stress straight.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like dying here. The next day, you present your patients to these attendings who are physicians who've been working there for a while. Stressful, you know, everything like that. I get home. I remember we lived above a Subway sandwich place. Grabbed a Subway, ate. It was like 3:30 p.m. And I was like, I'm just going to go to bed. I go to bed. And I wake up, sun's up, and I'm like, I'm like, all right, slept a couple hours, get up, no one's awake. I'm like, what is going on, right? It's 7 a.m. the next day. Sun is...
You slept the whole
I slept the whole, whatever you want, whatever the numbers are, 16, 17 hours straight. And fortunately, I didn't even set my alarm. I got up for the next day, just ran into the hospital. And every 4 days, you know?
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that because I felt amazing. I was like, gosh, must slept an hour or two. Let's go out. Let's go grab a dinner.
Let's go grab dinner.
That was
It's
my
breakfast
first call.
time.
Yeah.
And so looking back at that now, when you share the story, it's because I can see the excitement. So thinking about it, if you weren't there with your, let's say, friends, and you didn't get chosen the right match, you wouldn't be sharing the story right now.
I know. It's very true. It's like it could have been a completely different trajectory.
Right.
If I ended up in another city or they weren't there. I mean, who knows, right?
Who knows?
Yeah.
So at what point did you become, and I said it in you were medical director.
Oh, yeah. So that training's done now. After 4 years at University of Chicago, in Chicago, I ended up getting married, met my wife there. She's also a physician. I met her. She was born and raised in Chicago. We got married.
Oh, you met her while you were in Chicago?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
So when you're telling me about
make a movie about
the trajectory. Oh, yeah. There's so much content for a movie here. This is just scratching the surface, I'm telling you. Then we got married. So the last 2 years of residency or training, we lived together in the West Loop, had a place there. And then we both got jobs back in Columbus. Had my parents, sisters, everyone in Columbus, and from a physician standpoint and job opportunity standpoint, there was a lot of great things in Columbus.
Right.
So moved there and then joined a private practice, a large hospital practice.
Now I'm going to ask a dumb question, and listeners that are going to say, yeah, Darin, that was a dumb question. There's more money in private practice, right?
Yeah, there is usually. There
Okay.
is. And actually, I'll make a little bit of a distinction when you join an academic practice. So if I went and said I'm going to work at Ohio State's hospital,
Okay.
that's usually there's more like teaching involved. Like you have because there's a residency program there. So you're working, but you're also training residents. For me, I was like, dude, I'm done learning, teaching, doing whatever. I want to go and work. There is usually more money as well. And by that time, actually, there was a lot of people who do a fellowship, which is an extra year after training.
Okay.
And our chairman at the time became national president of the
And explain fellowship.
a fellowship. So if anesthesiologist, when I was done after 4 years, I'm a board certified anesthesiologist.
So you're ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
Yep.
But some people wanted to do cardiac anesthesiology or pediatric anesthesiology. Like they want to take care of only kids. You do a 1-year fellowship in anesthesia. Okay.
Okay.
Another fellowship example is if you do internal medicine, which is a 3-year training program, and you want to be a cardiologist, you'll do another 3 years of cardiology fellowship.
So we're talking. So just I want to back this math up. So 4 years at college, then
4 years of medical school.
4 years of medical school.
4 years of anesthesiology training or residency.
So we're 12 years in.
We're 12 years in. And people are opting to do another year.
So potentially 13 years in.
Yep.
Wow.
Then you earn a first paycheck the next year. Like real
Yeah,
paycheck.
real paycheck.
Let's
yeah.
call it like real
Yeah, no,
paycheck.
obviously you're getting paid
'Cause
before,
you're working,
but like,
you were working 100 hours, and
Yeah.
at that time I was getting paid $40,000 a year.
yeah. So divide that up. Your minimum wage.
Minimum
Yeah,
wage.
less than minimum wage. Yeah.
Yeah. So our chairman scared a lot of us to say, well, if you go out there and you're just a general anesthesiologist, you might not have job security. Like they're literally like, think about that for a second. Crazy. But it works because you're just like, well, maybe.
Because you don't know.
You don't know. So 18, I think
Right?
it was 18 out of 20 residents in my class did fellowships. Only me and another guy said, I'm out. I'm ready. You guys did a great job training me. I'm very confident I can take care of whoever, and I know I'll do my thing. Went straight to a job and no regrets. But yeah, so started out as joined a private practice. It was definitely a better package at the time, and I was just ready to work. And then 2 years later, within that practice, I became partner. So you're now getting paid like everyone else, and just like a lot of other jobs. And then a few years later, I became a medical director of a hospital.
And how do you, what's that transition like?
Yeah. So every
'Cause, I mean, we're talking obviously 12, 13 years of I'll call it constantly learning.
Yep.
And then now you're at a private practice.
Yep.
For a few more years.
Yep.
And then you join another hospital.
No, so this is the same practice that is in charge of a few hospitals.
Okay.
And they needed a medical director for that hospital.
Right. So you've elevated your way up pretty quick.
Yes.
But
I'll tell you,
relatively
I'll tell you the hesitancy I had, which was one of my friends was medical director of this hospital at that time. And I was like, cool, you do your thing. He ended up leaving the practice and he said, Navin, I want you to take over. And you know what?
And Navin said, I'm in.
Oh no.
No.
Oh no.
I'm wrong
I'll tell you
again.
why.
I'm wrong again.
This was another rule that is a truism that is I think really good for leaders to understand. My first reaction was I spent so much time building trust and pretty much having everyone like me. That was important to me at the time. That's how I grew up.
Right.
And this was definitely overnight going to put me in a camp because that hospital was controversial in various ways. People said, oh, you don't work as hard, you don't whatever. So our group was divided. So if I become medical director, you immediately are like semi-hated by some.
Right, by some.
That was so uncomfortable for me.
Right.
It was excruciatingly uncomfortable. And so
And they're just not liking you because of the position.
yeah,
They don't even know you.
Right, but it's by de facto.
Yeah.
And it's and this is old. Even today, it's a very old school traditional mindset group where we had this one hospital. Now we have other hospitals, and what's everyone doing? Like not working as hard. It's just it's archaic.
Right.
But it's also human nature. It's like, what are they doing over there? Are they working as hard? Are they getting benefits that we aren't? So anyways, that was a really hard pill to swallow. Once I said, okay, I will do it, I was extremely anxious and nervous. I did it. Then total imposter syndrome, which we haven't even talked about that, but every single step of my life has been imposter syndrome. Medical school, training and residency, and then this new job, and then medical director. Total imposter syndrome. I remember being in my first medical director meeting, and I'm like, shit, I don't even know if I know. I don't even know if I know what to do, what to say, right? But that was such a great elevation in my life of experience and confidence, because I realized a little bit afterwards that, man, I mean, they're smart, but
I know
I belong here.
I'm smart too.
I belong here.
Yeah.
I belong here. But yeah, and I have a lot of wisdom and experience and confidence when people are feeling that, because imposter syndrome is everywhere.
Yeah.
And in almost all stages.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
And so I really like to dig in on that, because I've felt it. And in reflection, every stage I question myself, even though I was this trained anesthesiologist.
Yeah, you were killing it.
Yeah. I mean, I was qualified, to say the least.
Okay.
How's that? I was qualified to be there.
Right.
But even if when we're qualified, we still question ourselves.
Right.
And then we start questioning, what does qualified mean? I mean, all these things, right, that have gone through our minds. But yeah.
And I think that's in any field, right?
Any field, any stage.
Yeah.
I think imposter syndrome, I really want to start talking about that more.
Yeah.
Because I think it relates to how our lack of confidence or lack of belief stops us from going into a lot of different rooms.
Yeah. We closed this deal in my industry, my manufacturing company, and we closed this deal to OEM a product for this very big company, $1 billion company, right? And so we closed the deal, but one of the stipulations, everything's good to go, but one last stipulation, they're ready to go, start making the product for us. One of the stipulations was, we just need to come and check out your quality assurance. I said, yeah, for sure. You guys can come to our factory. It's okay. We're going to send our engineers and then our quality assurance people to make sure it meets our standard. And then I started thinking, well, what's their standard?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And fortunately, when they came, and I'll be honest with you, I was pretty nervous because, that's the imposter syndrome. You're thinking, wait a minute, I'm playing with the big boys, but am I really a big boy?
Exactly.
And they came and they went through all our stuff. They don't tell you anything.
Yep.
They leave. They're going to put a report together. And the report was, they wanted us to come up and show them how we did ours, because they want to change their systems.
That's
and
amazing.
I looked at Evan, who's the president of my company. I said, you know what? We deserve to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But before that, I was like, oh, wait, they're going to come here and look at all of our stuff. Oh, this isn't good.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I feel like we do a good job, but like, do we do it right?
But, and by the way, on a separate note, like that as a business strategy is brilliant, because either way, you're either going to level set, this is a partnership that we belong in.
Yep.
Or we're going to learn.
Yep.
Or we can teach them if they're open to it.
Yeah.
Like, because we like them so much.
Yeah.
So either way, as a business strategy, it's brilliant.
Okay.
If you're willing to learn.
Yeah. And if you're willing to learn, because if you think you're the smartest guy in the room, you're wrong. Right.
Absolutely.
We talk about that all the time.
Absolutely.
So you wrote a book, you're an author, Physician Underdog.
Yep.
And I want to talk about that. But before I talk about that, I just want to touch on, you founded a mobile healthcare company.
Yep.
And you expanded that in multiple states.
Yep.
Give us a brief synopsis on that.
So it's a mobile anesthesia company. So myself and two other anesthesiologists co-founded it, and it's essentially bringing services to offices. So eventually we got into children on Medicaid who have these long waits to get into an operating room. So I'll just give you a quick, like persona, if you will. 4-year-old child on Medicaid goes to their dentist, has a lot of pain in their mouth. The dentist diagnoses that there's a lot of cavities and they need to extract like 10 of them.
Okay,
10
teeth.
Okay. Me or you, we're in a dental chair. We can get some sedation or whatever and get that procedure there.
But they're on, okay.
But they're children.
Right.
They're not going to sit in a chair while you inject lidocaine or something like that.
Right.
So you need to put those kids off to sleep to do that procedure. And where do you go when you need to go to sleep or for a procedure? You usually go to an operating room where anesthesia is, where the anesthesiologist is. And so that backlog on average for a child in the United States of America, child on Medicaid.
Are we going to guess?
Let's do it.
I'm scared to even think.
Yeah,
about
you know,
that.
I can't guess. I can't guess.
I don't think I want to know.
No, I want to know, but I don't want to
Oh,
guess.
You want to know.
I want to know,
This
but
is the problem we're going to solve.
Yeah, I love it. I don't want to guess, but I want to know.
Okay. 9 to 12 months. In Chicago, it's 2 years.
What?
Yeah.
2 years.
Give me one reason why it's so long.
9 to 12 months.
Now, if you're a child on private insurance, you'll get done within a week. Medicaid,
It's a bad system.
It's a bad system. But at the same time, if you are running a hospital with a high cost center of operating rooms, there's a reason why everyone wants to do orthopedics, etc. Total shoulders, etc. They reimburse so much greater. Now, when you talk about dental, low on the totem pole, reimbursement's horrible, and then you add Medicaid to it. You're
on the bottom.
You are the bottom. You are literally losing money by taking this valuable time in a high cost OR. And again, definitely not justifying. I'm just saying that's the
reason.
That's the reason.
You're just stating facts.
I'm just stating facts. So we actually had an Ohio Medicaid, the largest Ohio Medicaid company, call us within a year of when we started the company and said, we have a problem and we need your help if you're willing to take care of kids. And we said,
sign me up.
We said, we've been waiting for your call. And so we presented to them. We blew them away. They said, we want you to come to our headquarters and present to our whole executive team. We did it. They said, let's go. And let's go in healthcare means a couple years. So 2 years later, we get a pilot. We do well in the pilot. We get a contract. But as soon as we get that contract, which when you're bringing medical services into a dental world, it's usually anything you do in a dental practice is dental insurance. Now we're saying, hey, you're not going to the hospital anymore, which becomes medical insurance, but we are proactively going to the dental practice. So we're going to bill medical. Okay? So we had to create value-based codes with Medicaid.
And you guys are creating this.
We had to create it.
And no one has done this before.
Not
to this level.
Yeah.
Not the way you guys did.
Yeah, I can't say with 100% certainty.
No, I mean,
it's pretty novel.
Yeah.
I mean, so we had to do that. And then once we had this template, we'd go to other Medicaid insurance companies, says, you have the same problem, right? Your kids aren't being taken care of. You have federal dollars, etc. And not only that, let's just talk about real quick progression of disease. That kid who's waiting 9 months.
It's awful.
Yeah. What do you think they're doing in the 9 months? They're not eating. They're not focusing. They're not going to school.
Everything's going downhill.
But then they're also utilizing crazy resources because they're in so much pain. We saw a child that went to the ER 30 times because they were in so much pain just to get these extracted because they were waiting. And this happens every single day in every single state. We go in and we take care of these children in the dental practice. Within 1 month, we put them asleep in the dental chair. We have an anesthesiologist, a paramedic, and a nurse. So they have an assistant. It's great.
And this is the mobile business.
Just the mobile business. Going
Correct.
back to it.
Yeah. I just want to make sure. Yeah.
Then we recover the child in another dental chair and we send them home. They never go to the hospital or an expensive OR system. Medicaid pays us directly. We save Medicaid money. We save
saving
time.
everyone money and time.
Yeah, and so it's really important. Like my main message is this company has shaped how I look at business. Because this was the first venture I started, and you're focused on the patient. You have this solution, and everyone's winning, right?
I mean, literally.
Everyone is winning. It feels amazing, and so
because when you talk about business, you have a win-win. That's the goal, right?
Yes.
But you're talking about it's not just a win-win; it's a win-win-win because there's multiple facets involved.
Yeah.
Your business.
Yes,
and the child.
Yeah.
The doctor's, the dentist office.
Yep.
Medicare.
Yep.
Or Medicaid.
Medicaid, yeah.
Medicaid. So you're talking about 4 wins.
Exactly. I mean,
and then the health for the child is a home run.
Yes, because there's like oral systemic disease. So just having those cavities is bad for your heart. It's bad for everything.
Yeah. It all starts with the teeth.
Exactly. And so today it's now 11 years old. And I always want to say also, I'm a co-founder and so many great people have contributed and still contribute to this company.
That's awesome.
So I'm speaking on behalf of everyone.
Yeah, of course.
This past year, we took care of 13,000 kids in 4 states. We have
13,000 kids.
Yeah. And the other day, a couple weeks ago, we had a record day of taking care of 100 kids in one day. And that's all in the 4 states in one day, okay? And can I tell you that one of the busiest hospitals that I worked at for my private practice, like a busy day was 100 cases in one hospital. And so we are now taking care of enough children where we are seeing more kids and taking care of more kids than a middle-sized children's hospital in this country.
Isn't that wild?
And we're using existing space, existing capacity. We're not building large
You're not
buildings.
building big buildings.
We're
You're
going
not.
to the community. We're traveling all around the state. So we're going to them. So you have like logistical thing, time, and we're starting to get a lot of data of like how much school they're missing, how much work the parent guardians are missing. And it's so impactful, and it's influenced how I look at business.
Right. I love it.
Shaped everything. And so that's why, purpose-driven, people-centric, all these things are very deeply meaningful to me because we've made it work. It's not just...
It's the proof is in the pudding.
The proof is in the pudding, and it's getting stronger and stronger. I can tell you right now, when I talk to anyone in healthcare, I know like you're totally getting it, but even like healthcare builders, healthcare investors, healthcare, you name it, they're like, that's crazy. Because I haven't even told you about the logistics behind it. The fact that we have logistical warehouses with temperature-controlled medications, and we have a system to check it, and like we are running this like a healthcare system, and we take it so seriously. We have peer review, we have physicians inputting, improving the processes. I mean, this is a monster, but it's given me a little.
It's only going to get bigger.
It's only going to get bigger, and
I'm assuming, right?
It's growing. Well, yes. We actually have states that call us to say, when are you coming here?
Right.
Because there's a problem.
And you're like,
no one's solving.
You're like, it's going to be a minute.
It's going to be a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's exciting. That's my.
No, I love it. It's absolutely. First of all, the number's mind blowing. So I'm glad I didn't guess.
And it's growing. Yeah.
And it's growing.
Oh, the weight.
But yeah, but the weight, and now how many people you're helping?
Yeah.
Like if you were to ask me how many people I think you're helping, I wasn't close on my number. I had one in my head. It wasn't near there.
Yeah.
and if you think about it, that's all because you and a few people came up with this idea, and then you've got the right people that surrounded you.
Yep.
And you got the right people to do the right jobs.
Yep.
The right people in the right seats.
Yep.
The everyday GSD thought process. I'm going to make sure I have the right people that have the same mindset as myself and my team.
Yep.
Because this is our vision. We already have an end goal, and to make this successful, everyone needs to win. And you hit all those boxes. Win, win, win.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not business 101. That's like business success story, right?
Well, that's what continued this infliction I have in the entrepreneurial world.
So when did you write the book?
I wrote the book. So,
did you start already in the investment capital world?
yeah, I did.
Okay. So let's transition. Okay.
Yep.
So, I kind of want to keep talking about the kids and the dentist, but we have to move on.
I knew you would, because
Yeah.
when you say, "Hey, let's just cover this real quick," I'm like, "Well,
Yeah.
this is a whole."
It's a whole.
It's
That's a whole
shaped
show.
who
man.
I
It's a
am.
whole show.
It's shaped who I am, and it's shaped like how I look at business and how I'm so excited
Yeah.
to solve problems with the right people.
I'm excited, and I didn't even know this was an issue.
Well, I'll tell you, being a physician, working in a hospital, seeing Medicaid population, I still had no idea. So there's so many people in healthcare.
So what's the difference between Medicaid and Medicare?
Okay, so Medicaid is usually for the underserved. If you're like below a certain income level, et cetera,
income
there's
level.
Medicaid. Medicare is usually with age.
Okay.
Yeah. So like,
So can you and let's say you're with age, so you qualify for Medicare.
Yep.
But you're also low income. Can you get Medicaid, or you just get one or the other?
I don't know that answer.
Okay, we're gonna look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually that's what it is. And so we've shown all
Because
these.
if you think about an older person in a lower income situation,
Yep.
are they getting the proper medical needs taken care of?
No one's getting the proper medical
No,
needs in these
no, it's-
populations. I mean, and it's
tragic.
as a physician who has private insurance, who knows a lot of physicians, when someone gets sick or needs access to care and all this, like the amount of phone calls that we have to make to get them in to be seen. Grateful to be able to do that.
Yeah.
That work and that network to do that, I can't imagine. And so then you have children on Medicaid who don't even know, I'll tell you, a lot of it's education.
Right.
There's a lot of, teeth that are rotted because a lot of these kids are drinking soda.
Yeah, it's like they're drinking soda and they're eating candy.
Or they don't have access to healthy food. Like all these
Right.
kinds of things that I know I have taken for granted
Right.
are not there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
a trickle effect.
It's a trickle effect.
Yeah.
Right. And so yeah.
And you looked it up, and you can, so you could qualify for both. I was just curious. I know.
No, I think that's a great question.
Yeah.
A lot of people do want to know that. So yes, you can get both.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm sure that's a whole loophole and process to get.
Well,
through.
let me tell you, my guess is probably, maybe I haven't thought about it because I wonder how many people survive to get to that age that are in that population.
I mean, that's a study in itself.
Yeah. So I don't even know if the numbers are that high.
Right.
My guess would be it's
probably
it's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Okay, so you're now you're in the entrepreneurial world, but still doing medical stuff.
Yeah, full time.
Right?
Yeah,
full time. But then you decide you want to go into this venture capital world.
Yeah.
And because you haven't written the book yet.
I haven't written the book yet, and I told you it's called OFFOR Health, like Office OR. So OFFOR, OFFOR Health is the mobile anesthesia services company. I just told you like today, like I fast forward 11 years.
Correct.
So going back to like growing it and everything, and I was also personally investing in some startups. So I got this like startup
bug.
Yeah. So reading about
the fever,
man, reading about it, can't get enough of it. And so then people around me are like, Navin, man, you're no longer talking about your day job. You're no longer talking about this other stuff you used to talk about. All you're talking about is business and deals and all these things like that. So pretty soon there's people who knew me said, hey, I want to get in on some of these deals. You know, you said you invested in this. I'm like, yeah. So I would just connect them. You know, here's the entrepreneur I invested in. Here's the deal I invested in. And then pretty soon after, they're just like, I'm just not as passionate or interested as you are. Can I give you money and you invest in a few deals?
Okay.
So that's when we started an angel fund, a small fund, got some money, pooled it together, invested in multiple companies. And then when that closed, other people were like, hey, are you still doing that? I heard you're, investing money in different startups and stuff. So then open another fund.
Well, how about this? When you invest into a startup, are these your friends that are investing the money with you at this point, or these are just colleagues?
Most of them, some colleagues, some friends.
And I have to assume, and it's a complete assumption, but at first it worked out for a couple of them, because if you do it at first and they kind of fails immediately, then you're kind of known as the guy that's like, well, I gave him money and he invested into, this hat company that failed.
Actually, it's not that easy, because we're investing essentially in today's terms in a pre-seed startup. So very, 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 very early stage. So their exits or acquisitions are probably a decade away on average.
Okay.
So some of those are still going and growing.
Right.
And so when people invested more with us in different funds or, different deals that we brought, it wasn't, they were seeing progress, but that's why it was so important to communicate. That's what I tell everybody.
Right. Communication's key.
That's business 101.
That's life 101.
That's life 101. But do you think a ton of people do that?
No.
That's the opportunity. And so I've always been very proactive at communication. I definitely probably can be even better, but it's always been on my mind. It's always been updating people, storytelling. Hey, this company just got this contract. This is what it means. It's so cool, whatever. Give me a call if you have any questions. Being accessible, being able to talk to your investors, etc. Yeah. I've done a pretty decent job on that. And I think the trust that I've built with people has been good. And that contributes to credibility and contributes to word of mouth. And that's,
there's also something special about hustling, right? And working hard and putting in the work and actually showing, you're showing people what you're saying.
100%. Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah. That was good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And they knew at that time I was investing my own money as well. So they're like, okay, Navin, you're not just aggregating deals. You're not just bringing us and interested in it. You're also putting your money in.
Your money where your mouth is.
Exactly. So they were like, well, you're doing it. Let me mimic some of your actions. And that's been consistent. And when I eventually left in 2019, my medical practice.
So you officially have left the medical practice world.
Yeah. And so, and we named, by the way, we named the venture capital from Loud Capital.
Yep.
To be loud and
LOUD.
LUD, loud.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of silent investors out there who give capital. And you know what? That plays a part. But you realize when startups fail or they do well, there's like so many, 99 other things that are needed outside of capital. Experience, leadership, ways to adapt, definitely more access to funding. There's just so many things.
So when you guys are investing into a startup company, are you also investing like chief financial officers? Are you investing? Are you giving them a team?
So today we have those resources. We actually have executives. We have workshops. We have consultants that integrate into the team. We have a lot of things. At that time, it was, here's some money. Let me know how I can help you sell.
Right.
Right. So they would text, hey, Navin, blah, 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 blah. Do you know any? I'm like, let me go to work. So it was like, let's work with you and for you. Just because we invested capital, like put me to work.
Right.
That was the infliction.
Because you want to make sure the money.
Well, you want to mitigate risk. You want to represent your investors well. Yes. But on the more selfish side, it's freaking fun, man.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
absolutely.
This is fun.
Yeah.
Like I believe
Business
in this.
is fun.
I believe in this. Yeah. So what's interesting is there was a lot of founders that were so surprised. They're like, thank you so much for introducing me. I'm like, what do you mean? Why are you saying thank you? And you realize the standard is so low, man. The standard is low in venture because a lot of people in venture capital have great financial backgrounds, really smart, blah, blah, blah. Fine. Not necessarily have business experience, business acumen, or been a part of a startup. So very low empathy.
Right.
Right. Empathy is really high for me. Like empathy is not only important, but I feel like I've been through so many different experiences that when a founder is going through something, there's a really good chance I've either personally been through it.
Yeah. Or someone who has.
Or one of my other founders have. So like, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you can answer this question because it's your business, but what's your largest investment into a company or an organization?
The largest amount, amount.
Yeah. Should we not talk about that? I was just curious.
I think I know why you're asking. And
well, I'm just curious.
But this is not, never mind. This has nothing to do with anything we're going through.
No,
okay.
no, not at all. No,
I'll say like at the time when we started, there were like $50,000 into startups.
Right.
And today we would probably be investing more towards 3 to 5 to 7 million.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of what my question was because I was trying to see how it's evolved.
Yeah. So we were going pre-seed, like very, very, very early. And now we're going a little bit later towards seed, Series A. They're a little bit bigger. We want to lead deals. So do our own diligence.
Right.
Put ourselves on the board. Befriend.
So someone listening to this show that has, I'm going to make this up, a couple, maybe $200,000 that they've saved up and they want to invest. They don't know how to invest it. They could invest in Loud and then you take that 200,000 and mix it with other monies and then invest into a company.
Yeah. Usually a fund structure is, you invest in that and you get
I was just sharing that for the audience.
Yeah. I'm not able to solicit, actually. I'm not able to publicly talk about this, about raising capital from investors.
Right.
I can only educate people.
Correct. But if educating someone, if they wanted to invest money, they would have to reach out to you guys.
Yep.
And would they tell you, hey, I want to invest in something like water bottles, or do they say I want nothing to do with this part, or they're like, hey, I trust you guys.
Yeah.
And I know there's a risk. There's a risk in any investment.
Yeah. Usually. It's hey, we like what you're doing. We like the level of diligence you do. We like all the post-investment support, which is, again, the Loud capital, to be loud and active.
Right.
And with what we've built today, we have all these factors to help grow the company and lower your risk. So people usually come for that. They also, like, we had our fourth exit or acquisition a few months back. And the founders of that company, they're so happy with kind of how our relationship has been and how we've been helpful. They're investing with us. So that's a full circle moment.
Oh, wow. That's great, actually. That's another one, win-win-win.
So it's a win-win-win. It's a beautiful
thing. So you helped them, then they sold their business. Everyone made money.
Yeah.
And then they were like, hey, now I've got this money. I'd like to make my money make money.
Yes. And we had some moments, we had some
Yeah.
moments with a lot of founders where we're all vulnerable and things aren't going well. And we've been fortunate enough where they would call us and they didn't treat us like an investor, because sometimes you hide from your investor when things aren't going well.
Yeah.
And they said, we really need help. And honestly, that's my dream. That's my dream.
Yeah.
Like, call me when shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Like,
When shit hits the fan.
like, call me, right? Because like we might be able to help.
Right. And if we can't help, maybe we know someone who can.
Yes. And we've
You said, because you said this earlier, I might not know the answer, but I might know someone that's already been through that.
exactly. And
Yeah.
you know what? I've had multiple calls and multiple opportunities to help, and it's amazing. And honestly, like, that is so fulfilling,
Yeah.
right? You're building these relationships and you're completely empathize with this founder who has the back, their back to the wall.
Right.
And yeah, so it's
So I'm going to go back to the beginning of the conversation, and then, but just to touch on something, and then I'm going to ask you a question, because I'm curious. Are your parents are alive today?
my father's not.
Your father's not. So your mother's still alive.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry to hear about your father. I didn't know him, but I'm sure he did a great job raising you, right?
Yeah.
So your mother today, who wanted her son to be a doctor, and watched her son, get the match in Chicago.
Yeah.
Went through all the process. Super proud of you. She's bragging to everyone back home in
Yep.
Ohio, and then back home, any extended family. My son's a doctor. He did it.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you're like, I want to get into the business world.
Yeah.
And she's like, no.
Actually, I have no. So my dad passed a few years back, but he was alive when I came to their house and told him. And I'll tell you the two reactions. My mom said, "Oh my God, that's great. Congratulations." She was so proud. Her brothers are businessmen and everything.
yeah.
And she seemed just totally okay with like, yeah.
So I was going to think that she wasn't going to be.
Yeah. Now my
Yeah.
dad says, he thinks for a second. He goes, "Are you still going to be a doctor?" And I said, "Yeah, Dad, I'm always a doctor.
Yeah.
Like, I have my medical degree and, whatever." And he
I didn't get in trouble.
yeah. No, but the background is
Yeah, right.
he put so much time and effort and his own money into me to go to medical school. And again, where he came from, immigrant mentality.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking of that.
Yeah, no, that's why
Yeah,
I'm
of
bringing it
course.
up.
Yeah, right.
So he was so invested, and I reflected on this. It didn't hit me right then because I was kind of laughing at the time.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, yeah, Dad, of course I'm going to do this. He's like, okay. And then I felt the weight of that question later. And I was like, my dad, came to this country, all the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Finally, I was the first and only doctor in the family. So he was just making sure that I wasn't leaving that. Right.
Right.
And so I
Yeah.
respect that. It was crazy. It was really,
Well, even at the very beginning of the conversation, I forget my question I asked you. You said, well, I'm still a doctor.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I forget what I said to you. But
Yeah. Well, I've realized that more recently. I wouldn't have said that a few years ago.
Yeah.
But lately, I've just been feeling really grateful
yeah.
for the opportunity to do what I do. And
Yeah. A doctor, an entrepreneur, and an author.
Mhm.
You have time to talk about the book?
Yeah, man.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah. So when I made my jump I quit my medical practice in 2019. And I was burned out. I was full time still. OFFOR Health was still going and growing. Loud Capital was going and growing. Then I had a wife and 2 daughters. So what does a person do? Right.
Right.
And I thank my wife for tolerating all the craziness that I was building. But I left, and I left for myself so I could focus on Loud Capital and OFFOR Health. Okay. So now I no longer am practicing anesthesia, and I have all this time, right? I did it for myself. I say that twice.
Right. Yeah.
But I realized it was extremely symbolic for a lot of people out there, especially physicians. Wait, what? You did what? And this was 2019.
Okay.
Okay. 2019, it's why did you leave? 2025, how did you leave? Very different.
Yeah, right.
Why? Why would you leave? How could you? This was before physician burnout, which is a thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really heavy thing. It was before that was kind of mainstream. So I was burned out because of all the stuff I was doing, not necessarily because of my job. Right.
Right.
And so, I had these conversations, and I was like, gosh, I'm saying the same story over and over. People are like, how did you go from anesthesiology to venture? right? And it's literally that we've had whatever time to talk about it.
Right.
But I don't have that time for every single person.
No, exactly. That's why they need to tune into the show and read your book.
That's right. So I started writing, and I got actually asked to write a chapter for a large medical publisher. I wrote it through a Google document. Every morning I would just write my story. And after I submitted that chapter, I was like, I have so much more to share. And it was talking about everything we spoke about. Growing up, wanting to be a doctor, adversity, imposter syndrome, being overwhelmed, feeling inadequate as a medical director, then this and that, starting this business. Like what, right? And one day I'm in the operating room taking care of one patient in the OR operating room. And I'm like, I think I'm meant to do more.
Right.
I wasn't only burned out. I was also like, I'm not fulfilled. Like I'm coming here taking care of this really sick patient, which is extremely important, extremely vulnerable moment. But when I take them to the recovery room, I usually never see them again. They're probably going back to their environment or situation where did I really do much for that life? Like these are the things I was thinking about. Right. And then OFFOR Health is taking care of.
I guess all valid questions that you'd ask yourself in that position.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, I trained really hard to be here and I'm making really good money and I deserve it. I earned it. But like, I'm not fulfilled. And so OFFOR Health, like taking care of all these kids, I'm learning so much more about Medicaid, Loud Capital. I'm investing in these founders going through, they're doing like real shit.
Yeah.
They're building real things that really can make a difference in the world. And I'm supporting them. So you have those two comparisons. And again, not taking anything away from the field of medicine, but I got exposed to everything. So Physician Underdog is that whole journey. And I called it Underdog because I thought everything I was working towards was getting out of an getting away from an underdog, right? Okay.
Right.
Imposter syndrome, like, okay, I'm going to be this doctor and I'm going to feel this way. But wait a second. Why am I unfulfilled? Why? I'm making good money. I have a family. Like, I should be so grateful. Why do I feel this way? And I realized because I chose this profession when I was a different person.
Right. You've evolved.
Yes. And so one thing I want to add to, because again, I like to mentor and I talk to a lot of kids. I say, I don't like to ask you what you want to be when you grow up. I say, what do you want to start with? Because it sets your expectation that you're going to change and want different things. And don't give yourself a hard time for doing that.
That's going to be a real.
So that's what it is, man. I was a different person. And so I felt like an underdog because I trained so hard.
Right.
Everyone, when I said I was leaving, was like, are you sure? Made me question myself.
You should question yourself, right?
Absolutely. My best friends sat me down who were so supportive of me and just said, all good, man. Just making sure, you sure? You know how freaking lonely that is?
Yeah.
And so I felt like an underdog because I was like, God, I worked so hard to be here, and yet I want to be here. And that's like, that seems a little far away because, I don't have the skills yet that I feel like I need to be over here. So all these things were going through my mind, but I called it Physician Underdog. And then from that, man, I realized I don't want to leave the underdog.
Right.
I actually want to be uncomfortable. It's just embracing it. It means I'm pushing myself.
Embrace the uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's embracing the underdog mentality. It's like the tagline I use because it's embracing that little the little chip, that little edge, that little Just because I'm disappointed, I put myself in that disappointment.
Right. I'm
kind of proud of that. Right.
Yeah.
And I embrace that today. Like I make sure I'm a little bit uncomfortable. And I'm not saying this is easy. Nothing is easy.
No, nothing is.
But
if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah. But I want to encourage that for people.
Right.
Don't be so comfortable and complacent. I want you to be grateful, but I also want you to be motivated to grow.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like underdog is kind of like one thing I want to say too is I feel like when we bring up underdog, it's permission and safety to bring up vulnerable situations and adversity. So instead of saying, hey, let's be vulnerable and just talk about like what really went bad in your life, it's like, man, why are you an underdog?
Right.
Right. And this is my theory.
Yeah.
This is my theory. Like
right.
I really think that this allows for everyone to share openly about adversity because we only hear about the wins and I'm tired of the wins, man.
Yeah.
right? The win is like sharing that. That's a win.
Right.
And you're here today. You're showing up.
You're showing up.
Yeah.
And you know, and a lot of people, if they just showed up.
Oh my gosh. More than half the battle. G.I. Joe? No, half the battle.
Yeah.
No, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's more than half the battle.
Yeah.
It's more than half the battle
Yeah.
showing up.
It is.
And I tell my 16-year-old, I said, do you know if you showed up every day, wherever you are, at work, at school, do you know like that itself is going to lead you to success?
Yeah. I tell my sales guys, just show up.
Yeah.
I want you to do more, but just show up.
Just show.
Just show up. You're going to be better than everyone else's team
Yes.
because they're not showing up.
I know.
I know it.
Yeah.
I'm out there in the business world and I see these guys. They're not showing up.
Yeah.
And my team shows up and my team kills it because they show up.
Yeah.
And then once you start showing up, then you start seeing success rates, and then you put more effort into it. And then you're like, this is great.
It's a cycle of winning.
Yeah.
It's a cycle
Yeah.
of like fulfillment too.
Yeah.
I
Make
mean,
excuses to win.
yes. Yeah. So that's what I wrote about, and
Yeah.
it's empowering. It's and a funny story is I self-published, and I want my next book to go through a publisher so I can get some support. But
So we're doing the same thing, actually.
Really?
I self-published my first book.
yeah,
And then the next one that we're almost done, we're working on a couple things right now, which will go through a publishing company.
oh
Yeah,
okay,
we can talk offline.
I was going
on
to
it.
say we're
Yeah.
gonna have to.
Yeah.
I need to learn a lot about this, but
I mean, I'm still learning.
of course,
Yeah, I'm
if you
still
weren't,
learning.
you'd be dead.
Yeah, I'm still learning for sure.
There was
So your book now currently is on Amazon, I'm assuming.
Amazon,
Yeah,
Audible,
yeah,
Spotify,
yeah,
all
yeah,
that.
yeah. Okay,
yeah.
same as mine. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was one time where I thought I wanted to go with a publisher and had a couple agents, and there was two pieces of feedback that they gave me. One was, this is too short. It's 150 pages. They're like, I would want it longer. I was like, okay. And then number two, the one that really turned me off was, you're not telling people what to do. You need to be more salesy. And I said, oh, no. That's just not who I am. I'm not prescriptive.
It's the wrong publisher.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was a reminder that, like, you know what, if I want to keep my book and
Yeah.
authentic and not be swayed, I'm going to self-publish this.
Yeah.
And so,
there's a publisher out there that will keep it exactly your way.
really.
You just got to find the right one.
Yeah, you're right about that.
For sure.
And I think at that time, who knows, like, how they judge you, but I'd never written anything. I didn't really have a community out there. So I think it's a little different now.
Yeah.
And I feel pretty empowered right now to say, hey, if no one takes my next book, I'll self-publish. It's all good.
Yeah.
But
You already went down that road. You know how to do it.
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a collaborator, Robert Conlon, who helped put the whole book together. He was awesome. And we went back and forth. This is pre-Justin, I believe, about the same time we started connecting. And it was interesting because I was like, I want a publisher. I want to self-publish. So we did all the pros and cons. And I came up with the same thing because mine's a military story, talked about some operational stuff.
Yeah.
And then I talked about growing up and like how I became who I am today. And we went back and forth and said the best way to do this is self-publishing because right now we're not finding someone that wants this story.
Yeah.
But then as soon as I did that, then I talked to people. They're like, "Oh, I would have done that. I would have done that." I was like, "Where were you when I was looking?
I know.
Where were you when I was looking for you?" But I didn't have the right network, and now
Same.
and now I've got a much better network, and
Exactly.
there's more ways to win.
Yeah.
More ways to win. So I have a few questions from the audience.
Let's do it.
Is there anything that I didn't touch on that you want to mention?
I want to mention one thing.
Absolutely. You can mention 5 things if you want, my friend.
You just said, when you wrote your book, you didn't have the network or, connections or brand that you have today.
Right.
So one thing I want to share is, remember I told you I wrote this chapter for this medical book? So COVID hit. I'd written the book, got it edited, got it approved. COVID hit, and so they were stalled for a while. A year and a half later, I just emailed them. I said, are we still doing this? Because I'd submitted it and everything. They're like, oh, I'm sorry. We're still looking for blah, blah, blah. Like, okay. Then a new editor comes in, redlines 80% of my chapter. And guess what? Guess what my response was?
I can't say what I was going to normally say because I'm trying not to curse.
I saved the email. I was very professional. Like I usually am very professional, but it just felt so good to send. I said, it looks like the chapter that I wrote and already got approved needs to be worked on and adjusted. However, in that time, I've written a book, I've published a book, I've built a community and following on LinkedIn, etc. And I don't feel like this is the right piece for you. I'm going to be pulling it. And what did I do with it? I gave it to, because it was innovation in anesthesiology. It was like,
Right.
but it was my story within that. So I went to the largest anesthesia magazine distributor, which had a larger readership than this like huge medical publisher. And I just gave it.
Yeah.
And they put it on the cover announcement and they put my whole chapter in there. It was the most beautiful.
Oh, I love it. It's almost like you're like slapping the face to them. Boom.
Yeah. I was
That's
like,
what you get.
oh, no. But I remember getting that first email. I was like, they want me to write a chapter. Oh my God. And that's very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But 3 years later, things have changed so much.
Yeah.
Where I was like, yeah, you guys are old school, man. Like you can't change what you already approved. And
Yeah.
I still think it's great. So yeah, I just thought I
the
would
old,
share
the
that.
old, no, it's a great story. The old 80% red line. Justin's over there going, yeah.
Oh,
He's been through that a bunch of times.
Oh, man.
Okay, so a couple questions from the audience, and then I'm gonna close out with one question that I'll have for you, and then I got a little gift for you. So again, thanks so much for being on the show. I've had
this is great.
such a great time chatting with you. Okay, first question. Okay, Navin, you've made a huge career shift from anesthesiology to venture capitalists. What was the turning point that pushed you to leave the operating room for the boardroom? We kind of touched on that, but what was there a pivotal point to go back to this specific question? Was there one point you're like, you know what, I'm gonna drive home and tell my parents I'm done. I'm still a doctor, but I'm leaving.
Yeah, and I've reflected a lot on that. I think a really big piece was when I saw the entrepreneur kind of life. Like it's so meaningful, it's so stressful, it's so joyful, but it's like so real and you control that. And I felt like as an anesthesiologist working at a great hospital, whatever, I felt like a corporate job, like people explain, you're like tied to this structure. And so I feel like I couldn't express myself. And I found this creative, artistic aspect from writing and being in different meetings. And so I don't know if there was a day it clicked,
Right.
but that was a big, significant thing. How do I want to live? Do I want to live in I felt like a bit of a cage.
Yeah.
Or do I want to be free and take the risk?
Do you want to live in a box?
Yes. That was probably my main thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, next one. So Loud, again, Loud, Loud, Capital is known for being purpose-driven. How do you balance making a positive impact with the pressure of delivering returns in the high-stakes world of venture capital?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
It's actually a very simple formula. You ready for it?
I can't wait.
You treat people like people. So in venture capital, there's an investor founder mentality of top down. I'm talking to you. I'm giving you money, so I own you. Like that mentality. And so when I was telling you earlier about the empathy being high at all times, it's like you are investing in people. And how do you if you want someone to perform really well and be their best, it's usually supportive. It's building trust with them. It's learning from each other. I mean, it sounds soft, but like
No, it's not. So I'm yesing you because this is
yeah.
what you're saying is the everyday GSD way. This is facts.
And so there's a lot of people, I think, in the investment industry who don't lead with that. They lead with transactions and money. But you can get way more money and better transactions by first doing the hard part, which is using your soft skills to build trust and relate to people and optimize them. And that's, I'm so deep into it, I would call it business 101, but it's probably not business 101.
I know I find myself saying that a lot, and then I'll talk to someone. They're like, let me write that down. I'm like, you know what? I'm glad we're talking.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Okay.
I mean, that's it. And so when we say people-centric, we're getting down to the basics.
Yeah.
To say, but you have the skills and talent here to do anything. So we had to invest in each other and be that strong team.
Yeah, 100%. I just going to say a quick story real quick. I was, a little while ago, I was a keynote speaker in Saratoga, New York at the Northeast HPBA. It's a Hearth Patio Barbecue Association. And somewhere in the beginning, I told everyone in the audience, a couple hundred people there, I said, I'm not here to tell you anything you don't already know.
Yep.
Because I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to tell you things that work for me. And if you want to do them and you probably do them, you're kind of slipping up every once in a while, or you're not staying disciplined. Once you stay on that path and you have a team working with you, you'll be successful.
Yep.
I made a comment about, you can have the best leader and a terrible team. No, let me rephrase that. You can be the best leader and an excellent team. You'll be successful. You can be an okay leader and have an excellent team, and you'll be successful. If you have an excellent leader and a terrible team, you won't be successful.
Yeah.
It's about the team.
100%.
And it's the wheel. That's how we go down the road. Okay, another question from the audience. I like this one right here. I was reading it. Your book touches on leadership and transitioning careers, because we've all done this, right? What's one piece of advice you'd give someone who feels stuck in their current path but isn't sure how to pivot?
Pay attention to what gives you energy. Pay attention to what gives you energy and follow that.
Yes.
And there's a really good chance that you can find a work or career that complements that. And then you will never feel ready to make that jump.
Yeah.
It feels extremely lonely.
Yeah.
There's smart ways to plan for
Yeah.
it, but that jump is going to be lonely,
Yeah.
but you're not alone.
But make the leap and you're not alone.
That's right.
Make the leap and you're not alone. I love
right.
it. Okay, so this one's okay. One more, and then I have got one that I wrote down. From speaking and writing to scaling businesses and running a VC firm, you wear a lot of hats.
Mm-hmm.
So, what daily habits or your mindset shifts help you show up and truly GSD every day?
Oh, bro, I'm surprised we even. This could be a whole episode.
Yeah, I love it.
I remember I told you I'm a disciplined person.
Yeah.
So I am extremely robotic when it comes to this. So every morning I like nerdy stuff. Okay.
Okay.
I wake up. I do a breathing exercise like Wim Hof breathing. I do meditation. I'm now on a mental fitness operating system for the last 120 days. That's a whole nother subject. I read, I journal, and reflect every single morning.
Yeah. Discipline.
So all those things set me up to dive deeper and get to know myself, which all of us need to know ourselves better. That helps manage our emotions, and it helps shift our mind to a productive and positive mindset. And that's what my next book's going to be on, essentially shifting your mind. And the reason I like this too, it's a big opportunity for many of us, but it's also accessible. I'm all about accessibility because we need more accessible things. I don't want to talk about a specific thing that costs much or this fancy gym over there, whatever. It's like, what can I do here and now in my own chair, wherever I am in the world? And that's what I'm interested in sharing with people. And these mindset shifts, those are what I practice.
I love it. So it goes back to discipline.
Yeah, it does.
100%.
Yeah.
You know what you want. You know what the results you want, and you know what you have to do to put in the work. So you do it.
Yep.
100%.
How do you, I know, but one of the things I've been nerding out on is like, how do you increase discipline in people who are not disciplined?
This is the question I get asked all the time when I'm on stage.
Yeah.
All the time. Because I explain the difference between motivation and discipline, right?
Yeah.
Motivation is today I want to go run 2 miles. I'm motivated to do it. I go and do it. But tomorrow I wake up, I don't want to run 2 miles, so I don't run 2 miles because the motivation went away. Discipline says I need to wake up every day this week and run 2 miles because I'm disciplined and I committed to that. Motivation will come and go. Discipline, if you just do it. I wake up today and I do not want to run 2 miles. I do not want to run 2 miles. But discipline says I have to because that's the decision I've chosen. I go and do it. Tomorrow, I might wake up and be extremely motivated and can't wait to go do it. But it all goes back to discipline. And so people will ask me, like, well, how do I get more discipline? You have to make that conscious decision. You physically have to say, and mentally, I can do more. When I talk about 100% or 110%, 100% is good. It's not great.
Yep.
110%. Your body can do more. Your mind can do more. If you think you can only do 10 push-ups, try to do 11.
Yep.
Or you don't want to eat chocolate, don't eat chocolate. Or you don't want to smoke cigarettes anymore, quit smoking cigarettes.
Yep.
There's obviously addictive all that. I'm not talking about that. Just in general. Like
Totally.
Discipline will win every single time if your mind is in the right place.
Totally agree.
100%. Okay, so this is my question. And it's kind of funny, and we'll wrap it up with this one. Any funny stories about what people do or say before you put them under?
Oh yeah.
I've been waiting for this one.
I mean, it's there's oh gosh, I'd have to think about it. The reason I laugh is because there are so many people that are so concerned about that.
Yeah.
That's what they say. They say, just whatever I say.
Yeah.
Please.
I just
keep
know
it
what
to
I
you.
said, so I'm curious.
And I know what Jonica said.
Please keep it to yourself. That's really it.
Yeah, that's the answer.
I mean,
that's the answer
That's
right
the
there.
answer right there.
That's the
Exactly.
Answer. That's the answer right
I mean,
there.
like,
Oh,
so
shit.
many people are like, just please keep it to yourself. I'm just like, it's cool. It's
Yeah,
cool. It's
you're
over.
like, you're like, it happens to everyone.
Good night.
It's probably like bartenders, right?
Yeah.
Like they've heard every story. I've never been a bartender. I've always wanted to be, but like I'm sure they hear like incredible stories of just like whatever,
It's everything.
sorrow, joy, whatever. But they probably know everything.
But
Yeah.
you said earlier, when you take them to the recovery room, you typically never see them again, so you never really get to tell them what they said, right?
You're exactly right.
great.
Yeah.
I didn't have that experience. My guy came back and told me.
It was that good. Hey, listen, I want to thank you for coming on the show. This is going to be an awesome show. I know that a lot of listeners are going to be impacted by your message. I have not read your book, but I'm going to download it and make sure I put it on my list. I highly recommend just talking to you that everyone should, and I can't wait to see or hear about your new book. And keep helping people make money and keep winning, keep being an everyday GSD guy. I appreciate you. I do have a little gift for you. It's an everyday GSD t-shirt.
Oh,
so
thank you.
when you're doing your meditating, or if you're working out in the morning, or you just want to walk around and rep the colors. But thank you so much. I appreciate you, brother. And I'm sure we'll communicate in the future about a bunch of stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah, and thank you for the work you do, man. I know it's not easy to
Yeah.
sit here and have a conversation that's engaging and all the work you do behind the scenes. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. You made it easy. All right.